because we are in the process of evolution of crypto assets and crypto assets valuation, this is now a very interesting, even though simple, but very important chart to understand. Like in the very first stage, when any crypto network is created and it's not yet known how many people will really use it, and will they use it at all? Like there is only mood and expectation. Yeah, it's always on this stage you can see the difference. Some networks are highly expected and speculated on, like it was the same story with Ethereum even before main network launch, or like recently with EOS or Tezos. There is a expectation and high buzz in the crypto community, but even though we don't see like real usage yet, still expectations is high, and you can say, okay, something's going on there. And this is like this, it's covered by red circle. Now, once we or project kicks off the mainnet or even testnet, you can start measuring already real usage. And real usage can be like different metrics, daily addresses or newly created wallets, or even you can analyze, and we do it to in our platform, how many developers activity flows into a specific platform. So this green circle start interacting with red one. The crowd mood and growth expectations still here, but it's already based a little bit on real metrics which you can get from like on-chain data. And the more they interact with each other, it means the more times passes on from the moment when the network has been launched, the more kind of educated and not so esoteric calls you can make. And this is why we mostly see very, well, quite scientific approaches when people analyze Bitcoin or Ethereum. There are quite some metrics out there already. And power data science here really kicks in. Now, the next chart and a few charts thereafter, I want to show the following specific aspect. As we say in the beginning, there are many different ways how you can look into every specific asset on the crypto in general. And you can find out in the different places many frameworks. What we are mostly focusing on, what is speciality on a Santiment platform and our know-how, is like we always observe whatever happens from the point of behavior. Because we believe network of humans who are communicating, it's driven strongly by their behavior. And you can, by analyzing it, you understand a lot. So this data, which on this following chart, it will be representative of very maybe specific and unusual way, but this is what we wanted to show and share with you to activate your maybe new way of thinking, or like critical way of traditional way of thinking. On this chart, you see the green line. It's a price of an asset. It's a Golem, a GNT Golem network, one of the famous projects on Ethereum platform. And the price is like everyone knows the price. Now, what not so many people knows in the background was happening, and you see this yellow chart and yellow spiky lines. This is the amount of daily active addresses. Means how on daily basis many unique addresses were interacting with each other. It gives you very direct metrics of how active the community is on a blockchain. This is on-chain data, we'll like take from Ethereum blockchain. And because interacting on a blockchain like takes you a little bit effort, and it's not completely for free, so it can be assumed that this metric shows you real like interest from the network participants. And you will notice that, not surprisingly, there are some kind of spikes or very strong signals on a chart which do correspond with specific part of price discovery, because the spikes, they do represent the behavior of the big community or the crowd when they get really excited about something. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the amount of activity like grows like 3-5 times more than usual. Yeah, and then generally it does represent the price itself too. When the network activity goes down, it goes down like together with the price. Actually, the price is deprecated, so less people wants to speculate. While the background, it's like a second phase kicks in. It's like the first high price on the way up, and then we need some time for cool down. We can call it cool down period when the you cannot keep emotional activity all the time very high. So it's just one part of the data, how we look into it. And it's I think it's another project we take as an example, and you will see here the same repeating pattern with interesting, for instance, addition under number 2. It's again observation of human behavior. The price was from 6th of January. You see on the bottom line the dates. 6th of January. It was around this date. It was like top of price spike or price discovery. So the price was like going down, and at some period of time, those who were holding too long, they may be panicking or giving out. There is a quite a classic human behavior when you cannot bear the risk or this depression anymore. So you decide either go out or maybe change to another asset or go out to the cash, and we call it a kind of capitulation. So there will be like a short spike, and sometimes it's exactly at the bottom or sometimes close to the bottom. And as you can see, after number 2 spike, so there was still some time of going out, but then it's kind of price turned out, and market decided to price another direction, and exactly at the top there was again opposite direction. Maybe participants were super excited again. So all from the point of behavior analysis of how typically human reacts to the price changes. Now this is quite simple but powerful metric tool we do use for. We show it on our platform, and I would encourage anyone also to do something in this direction. What we measure here is like a general mood of the whole crypto crowd. And in this case, it's a kind of mathematical model how we collect and calculate usage of emojis, positive and negative, in all trading channels. And they show like wide swing, like a typical swing of traders. Sometimes they're super positive because maybe news coming out, and sometimes a negative. But what you can observe over a longer time, it does have also like a general trends. And in this case, with the green line, and we did share it actually quite some time ago. In green line, it was visible that after hitting the bottoms of mood of the traders, it kept growing up generally slowly over the last at least 1.5 months before the recent spike in Bitcoin. So it could already raise your awareness that it seems like we build up the real bottom in the crowd mood, and maybe it will start climbing up again. Similar things, but from more detailed perspective, you can see from specific projects too. For instance, like in this example, we took Tron. It's a quite hyped and discussed project in the crypto space. We've been collecting all the messages from Telegram channels, and we split them between channels which belongs to Tron community and those who are like not part of the Tron communities. And it also shows interesting picture, or like for further analysis gives you enough food, how the spikes or like reaching the peak top valuation, how they have, what kind of effect they have on a crowd or community of people who are engaged with this project. Yeah, the white line here is the price, and the green and blue line green and blue line is amount of messages which been passing through communication channels. I see also the question on our Mentimeter. Maybe I will answer because it is reflected to what I'm talking right now. Where is the data coming from? Are you using third parties API or do you collect the data by yourself? We do collect all the data by ourselves from on chain. We have our full nodes, and we like connecting one after another to have direct access. And the same from social data. We write our own APIs or connectors to get the data directly. And actually, when we are talking about APIs, I can mention already now, we do provide APIs already to get access to this data. Yeah, similar things now, social volume, but for EOS. It's another very highly expected project which launched their main network somewhere in the beginning of June. So the same white is the price, and blue and green you see the amount or intensivity of communication. Now I don't go on purpose here. It's actually better if I can draw some additional lines and show maybe some pattern to explain how it usually feels like using the data coming close to the top, or how period of lack of interest on building the bottom might be taken from this data. It's actually very interesting task for data scientists or people who really want to play with it. But by observation of it, you see that there is something behind it. Yeah, like white price is visible to everyone. Now, when you look in the data, which typically not shown to everyone, you can see that, yeah, it will be interesting maybe to build some models around on to start correlate data between each other to have this deeper understanding of how the network grows is followed by specific kinds of data. This is another one. I think our CTO was doing some experiments when recent spikes in Bitcoin price starting to happen. We start to track only talks about Bitcoin, everything related to Bitcoin. Yeah, also find out, still experimental, but thinking how this can be used for measuring the top sentiment in Bitcoin, which should come soon, because we have been growing for some time, but we have not reached it yet. This may be the most complicated metric I just mentioned to show that even a very complex analysis can be made now when we have some good amount of historical topics. This is history of our own Sun token. You see this rose or pink line, which goes from around like 20 cent, goes to the top. Let's see, actually the mass scale is not so correct. So there is a rose line goes from left, more or less a little bit down, just very strong up, and then goes sideways and goes slowly down. So this is the price of some tokens. The rest of the lines, they seem to be overwhelming, but they show a very interesting aspect: how many of issued tokens are transacted daily. Like how many in a circulation on daily basis, how many of them stay quiet but are circulated once per week, and then one per month, one per 3 months, because it does show you maybe building or growing interest from mid to long-term investors or declining interest of it, and do we have accumulation or distribution phases, this kind of analysis, and I'm pretty sure you can do much more with it. We are just recently finished calculating this kind of metrics for every single token on Ethereum blockchain, and it's as I said, it's still in initial phases of analyzing or valuing crypto assets or crypto projects. Just to show you that the data itself looks here interesting, but quite complicated. And it's worth spending time trying to understand how it can be incorporated into your own maybe model. Yes, this is the same token circulation for another project, 0x, also very popular. And maybe last metrics, I think this is the last one which we will share during the webinar. It's a so-called social dominance. It's amount of, you can see like 100%. It's the whole spectrum of media conversations on all crypto channels. Those who we like track and like attaching more and more. Now, how much percentage of it is going towards Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tron, use different cryptocurrencies. So you just see how much attention of participants of crypto markets flow into specific project. We do believe that changing in this attention has relevance to the price. Sometimes it's a leading, sometimes or most of the time it's a kind of lagging indicator. When price picks up, you will do have definitely much more attention. But it has its own kind of law. It's kind of this flow of attention, and it all shows also the same part of price discovery, how fast, how strong specific network is growing correlated to another network. Yeah, it's a small pitch. Because of we are working very intensively on so many on so much different data, we're still looking for interested data engineers or crypto analysts or even AI or machine learning nerds. But I will not spend too much time on it. Maybe we'll better spend time on answering the questions. And here will be some links to where you can learn on the first one, like what kind of call we did in 2017, and also access API access to some of key metrics which are now available as directly on our web page, or you can even use some Python library around it, or you can see some of them directly on our web page. Just to mention, we have a kind of beta platform where you can get access to much more experimental data and visualized, but it's quite rough and you can be overwhelmed, but there will be a lot of data there. Yeah, I think that's it for general representation. Maybe only one thing more I wanted to show. Let me see if I can switch to it, because I was like mostly sharing what can be collected and presented with power of machines. Now there is one thing where our community participates in it, generating some kind of, we call it insights. Now I think I need to press here. No, share. Oh yeah, here. Yeah. Let me. Is it visible? Mm-hmm. So this is part of community side. When those of part of our community who more or less comfortable with working with our data or applying kind of framework which we use, this crowd sentiment or behavior analysis, or sometimes even technical analysis, share on our platform. Now you can see, for instance, July 17, it's like 1 week ago, before this big spike in Bitcoin started, what some of our team members, they were doing, actually they were sharing on our Discord channel for quite some time, because we did notice there are repeating patterns. And as we know, like humans, they always behave more or less in repeating patterns. We say, oh, that may be interesting, like Bitcoin, which represent at least 50, sometimes more or less percent of cryptocurrency, does behave in like repeating patterns when you look into it on the chart. And then he shared, yeah, based on what we've seen before, we might be just before entering like a big spike. And this, I think, exactly what happened. It's one thing I'll say another source of information you can find on the platform where you see what experts are saying. And I think actually this insight is from me, myself. I was looking into the behavior of Bitcoin, how it was from 2010 till end of 2013, big price increase, and then what happened in the last 2 years. And then I was thinking, okay, what might happen starting from now on? That's where it was also interesting to see, yeah, we might be indeed entering quite big price movement right now. Or sometimes you see more specific, not only for Bitcoin, but some, I don't know, 0x, yeah, because we like this project a lot. Also, a lot of even based on our own chain data, yeah, where some specific human behavior was noted, how they usually react to price increases or discovery, and then there was some sharing. Yeah, it might mean that in this case, I think that the price might or should grow a bit more before we see follow up on chain activity. This, yeah, I think by now mostly I'm finished. Introduce 2 parts, like what machines are doing and what people can do with it. Good. Well, then I would like to say thanks to Frankfurt School of Finance and Blockchain, and for Christian personally for organizing and setting it up. For those who would like to collaborate or to work together, yeah, please visit our contributors page on Santiment.net. And yeah, as we are like based in Frankfurt, you can come talk to us in Frankfurt, and we are like running from time to time events both in Frankfurt, Darmstadt, or like recently even in Sofia, where we're like traveling around. And thanks a lot for see you soon. Thanks for spending so much time with us together. Bye.